Denji didn't ask for much, just bread with jelly, a warm bed, maybe a touch of kindness. But in a world built on contracts, even small dreams carry a monster's price. When a dying devil gives a broken boy a second chance at life, it feels like salvation. But this is Chainsaw Man, and every miracle here has a cost. Denji's contract with Pochita isn't just a pact, it's a paradox. A gift that saves him, and a curse that slowly erodes what little humanity he had left. This is the dark truth of Denji's deal, and why his heart might be the most tragic thing in Chainsaw Man.
ポチタ。俺の体、ちゃんと奪えたか？
これは契約だ。私の心臓をやる。代わりに、デンジの夢を私に見せてくれ。
Part 1. The Contract as Salvation and Prison. Imagine a world so unforgiving that a single slice of bread, plain and without even a bit of jelly, feels like a feast fit for royalty. This is the harsh reality that greets us when we first meet Denji, the raw and rough protagonist of Chainsaw Man. A teenager burdened by the crushing weight of his late father's Yakuza debts, Denji's life is a relentless cycle of desperation. He scavenges for survival, selling fragments of his own body, his organs, his dignity, just to scrape together enough coins to eat. His home is a crumbling hut, his days are spent hunting devils for small bounties, and his only companion is a small, chainsaw-wielding devil named Pochita, whose loyalty is the sole spark of warmth in Denji's otherwise cold existence. Their bond, tender and unyielding, is a quiet rebellion against a world that seems determined to grind them into dust. It's a bond that reminds me of the unspoken trust between Gon and Killua in Hunter x Hunter, where two young souls, battered by life's cruelty, find comfort in each other's presence, forging a connection that becomes their anchor. But even this fragile light is nearly extinguished when the Yakuza, those vultures of Denji's world, inevitably betray and murdered him. Their knives carve through his dreams, leaving his broken body in a dumpster, a discarded relic of their greed. Yet, in this moment of ultimate despair, something extraordinary happens. A moment that shifts the very fabric of Denji's fate. Pochita, his loyal companion, refuses to let him fade into oblivion. Instead of consuming Denji's soul, as devils typically would, Pochita offers a contract that defies the cold logic of their world. He merges with Denji's corpse, replacing his shattered heart with a revving engine of teeth and metal, a chainsaw that pulses with raw, chaotic life. The price for this resurrection is deceptively simple. Pochita asks only to live through Denji's eyes, to witness the dreams of a boy who has never dared to dream big. It's a pact that feels almost sacred, a promise between two outcasts who have nothing but each other. Yet, as we soon learn, this contract is both Denji's salvation and the first link in a new chain that binds him. Denji's rebirth, as the Chainsaw Man, a hybrid of human and devil, does not bring freedom. Instead, it delivers him into the hands of new masters. The Public Safety Division, a government agency tasked with controlling devils, discovers his unique power and wastes no time in presenting him with a chilling ultimatum. Serve as their weapon, hunting devils at their command, or be branded a dangerous hybrid and hunted down himself. The choice is no choice at all. Denji, who has only just clawed his way back from death, finds himself trapped once more, his body still a tool wielded by others. It's a bitter echo of his past, where his father's debts turned him into a commodity, and it calls to mind the plight of Eren Yeager in Attack on Titan. Like Denji, Eren's power as a Titan makes him both a savior and a prisoner, his freedom sacrificed to the agendas of those who see him as a means to an end. Both boys, gifted with extraordinary abilities, are shackled by the very strength that sets them apart. Yet, within the confines of this new cage, something unexpected begins to take root. For the first time in his life, Denji experiences fragments of what others might call normalcy. A regular paycheck lands in his hands, a roof shields him from the rain, and he finds himself surrounded by people, colleagues, not friends, but close enough to stir something unfamiliar in his chest. The Public Safety Division, for all its control, offers Denji a taste of the life he's only dared to imagine in his quietest moments. His dreams, so modest they might break your heart, eating toast with jelly, touching a girl's hand, living without the constant ache of hunger, suddenly seem within reach. It's a cruel paradox. The same contract that chains him to a life of violence also opens the door to these small, human joys. This duality, this tension between freedom and captivity, is what makes Denji's story so compelling. It's not just about survival. It's about the cost of hope, the price of daring to want more in a world that has taught you to expect nothing. He has been betrayed by the world from the moment he was born, by his father's debts, by the Yakuza's greed, by a society that let a boy sell his body to survive. Yet this lifelong suffering has forged in him a peculiar resilience. Unlike characters with grand ambitions, say, like Yagami in Death Note, whose hunger for power blinds him to the traps laid by others, Denji survives because his desires are so small, so grounded. He doesn't dream of ruling the world or rewriting its rules. He dreams of a warm meal and a soft touch. This humility, born of a life that has shown him no kindness, becomes his shield. It allows him to navigate a world of manipulation and betrayal with a pragmatism that is both heartbreaking and admirable. As I reflect on Denji's journey, I feel a strong sense of empathy for him. His contract with Pochita is a lifeline, yes, but it's also a chain, pulling him from one form of servitude to another. The chainsaw in his chest, that roaring symbol of his rebirth, is both his power and his prison. It grants him strength beyond imagination, but ensures he will never truly be free. And yet, in the midst of this struggle, Denji's small dreams shine like stars in a pitch-black sky. They remind us that, even in a world that seeks to crush you, there is something profoundly human about wanting just a little more, not power, not glory, but expecting so little from a world that has never shown him kindness. It's a reminder that resonates deeply, a thread that ties Denji's story to our own, as we navigate our own contracts, spoken or unspoken, with the world around us. Part 2. The Symbiosis of Identity and Desire. What makes Denji's contract truly revolutionary isn't just what it gives him, but how it fundamentally transforms both parties involved. A boy and a devil, bound not by chains but by something far more intimate, a shared heartbeat. Denji and Pochita, the heart and soul of Chainsaw Man, don't just form a contract, they forge a revolutionary bond that shatters the rigid boundaries of their world. Most devil contracts in this universe are cold, transactional affairs. A human surrenders something precious, a limb, a lifespan, a loved one, in exchange for a devil's power. The human remains human, just a little less whole. The devil remains a devil, indifferent to the cost. But Denji and Pochita? Their pact is something else entirely. A fusion that blurs the lines between human and monster, creating a hybrid existence that beats with both heart and hunger. To me, this isn't just a plot device, it's a profound meditation on what it means to be alive, to want to become. When Pochita, that small, chainsaw-wielding devil, becomes Denji's heart, their identities don't just intertwine, they melt into one another. Pochita doesn't merely lend Denji power. He becomes the very rhythm of his survival, the organ that keeps him alive. This isn't a transaction, it's a transformation. Denji is no longer just a struggling, debt-ridden boy, nor is Pochita merely a devil, bound by instinct. Together, they are something new, something neither fully human nor entirely devil. This fusion mirrors the central tension of Chainsaw Man, the fragile, porous membrane separating humanity from monstrosity. I'm reminded of Neon Genesis Evangelion, where Shinji Ikari's connection to his Eva unit blurs the boundaries between pilot and machine, human and other. Like Shinji, Denji's symbiosis with Pochita raises a haunting question. Where does one end and the other begin? Yet, unlike Shinji's often reluctant bond, Pochita's choice to sustain Denji, to become him, feels like an act of love, a deliberate rejection of the predatory nature of devils. This symbiotic relationship sends waves through Denji's psyche, reshaping not just what he can do, but who he is. Consider his attraction to Makima, a force that consumes him throughout the story. Is it the yearning of a teenage boy, desperate for connection? in a world that's chewed him up and spit him out? Or is it something darker, a devil's instinct clawing toward power and control? The answer, I believe, is both, and that's what makes it so compelling. When Denji transforms into Chainsaw Man, revving his chainsaws with a roar that shakes the earth, is he wielding Pochita's power or expressing his own desires? The boundaries blur, suggesting a provocative truth. Human longing and demonic hunger might not be so different after all. This idea resonates with Tokyo Ghoul, where Ken Kaniki's transformation into a half-ghoul forces him to confront the primal urges that lurk within his humanity. Like Kaniki, Denji's hybrid nature exposes the thin line between need and monstrosity, but Denji's journey feels uniquely raw, driven by a hunger that's both achingly human and ferociously other. As Denji's story unfolds, we witness his desires evolve, growing in complexity and depth. At first, his goals are painfully simple: a warm meal, a roof over his head, the fleeting thrill of physical intimacy. These are the dreams of a boy who's known nothing but survival, scraping by in a world that's never given him a chance. Yet as he forms bonds with Aki, power, and others, his desires expand. He begins to crave protection for those he loves, to grieve for those he's lost, and eventually to question his own purpose. Each new emotional experience feeds not only Denji's growing humanity, but also Pochita's understanding of what it means to be human. It's a closed loop, a symbiotic cycle where desire and fulfillment nourish both boy and devil. Denji's pain, his losses, his fleeting joys, they all fuel the evolution of both his humanity and Pochita's connection to it. Denji's hunger, both literal and metaphorical, drives the narrative with unrelenting force. His craving for touch, for companionship, for acceptance mirrors the primal hunger of devils who feed on fear and chaos. Early in the story, Denji's openly voiced obsession with touching boobs was played for laughs, a crude reflection of his teenage desperation. But beneath the humor lies a profound truth. Desire is a life force, a spark that keeps Denji alive in a world that's tried to snuff him out. Pochita, in turn, feeds on this desire, drawing strength from Denji's raw, unfiltered wants, just as Denji draws power from Pochita's chainsaws. It's a cycle of need and fulfillment, a transfusion of essence that binds them closer with every beat of their shared heart. This interplay feels deeply personal to me, as it reflects the universal human struggle to find meaning through our wants, to transform base instincts into something greater. Denji's hunger is the heartbeat of his existence, a reminder that to want is to live. The contract between Denji and Pochita doesn't just change what Denji can do, it reshapes what he wants. As his experiences stretch beyond mere survival, his dreams grow more intricate, more human. He begins to long for a family, for purpose, for a life that means something beyond the next meal or fleeting touch. And Pochita, through Denji's eyes, experiences the world not as a predator, but as something closer to human, a being capable of love, sacrifice, and even doubt. Their contract goes beyond transaction. It's a transfusion, a bleeding of one into the other until the distinction between boy and devil becomes impossible to discern. This fusion, this blurring of identities, is what makes their bond revolutionary. It's not about power or sacrifice in the traditional sense. It's about becoming something new together, about desire as a force that doesn't just consume, but creates.
あれ？俺は全然泣けねえんだけど。心臓だけじゃなく、人の心までなくなっちまったのか。ポチタが死んだ時は悲しかったな。でも姫の死んでも、初めて友達になろうっつってくれた人なのに、俺ひどくね？
Part 3. The Hidden Cost, Denji's Humanity as Collateral. Every contract in Chainsaw Man is built on loss. On paper, Denji's agreement with Pochita seems like a miracle, life traded for loyalty, power in exchange for companionship. But as with all miracles in the devil's world, the cost hides beneath the surface, written not in ink, but in blood, grief, and fading memory. Denji gets to live, but what version of living did he truly bargain for? To me, this is what makes Denji's story hit harder than most. From the outside, it looks like he's won, escaped his old life, gained power. But the more I watch, the more I feel like something more subtle is slipping away from him, something he doesn't even know how to protect. At first glance, Denji's pact looks liberating. He escapes the crushing debt, the starvation, the constant humiliation of his early life. With Pochita in his chest, he's no longer just a boy who eats trash to survive, he's the Chainsaw Man. And yet, as the story unfolds, I begin to see that what Denji gains in agency, he pays for with something far more intangible, something far more fragile. His humanity. This isn't a loss as immediate or dramatic as Aki's slow death or Himeno's sacrifice. It's a gradual erosion like rain on stone. Denji starts to lose the simple clarity of who he is. Not because the contract strips his soul, but because the soul it allowed to form is now being stretched thin by forces it was never built to withstand. Personally, I think this is what makes Denji's contract so unique. Unlike so many others in the series who give away their humanity for strength, Denji's bond with Pochita creates space for his humanity to grow. But that space is unguarded, untested, and Makima is waiting. Makima doesn't merely exploit Denji's desires, she weaponizes his innocence. She doesn't threaten his life, she dismantles his sense of self. She targets the parts of him that are most human, his wish for connection, his grief over loss, his naive pursuit of love. And from my perspective, she sees, maybe more clearly than anyone, that the greatest threat to Chainsaw Man isn't a devil, it's Denji himself. The irony is poetic. Pochita gives Denji a human life to pursue his dreams, but those dreams, friendship, love, safety, begin to test the limits of what that contract was ever meant to carry. As Denji forms real bonds, as he opens himself up to joy and despair, he evolves past the terms of the original deal. He's no longer just surviving, he's living, but living means pain. It means contradiction. It means change. And this raises a question I keep turning over in my head. Is Denji's transformation a breach of contract or its completion? In Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, there's a moment when Edward says, "A lesson without pain is meaningless, for you cannot gain something without sacrificing something else in return." Denji's growth mirrors this truth. He gains a sense of self, but sacrifices the comfort of simplicity. He gains love, but risks betrayal. Every emotional step forward pulls him further from the boy who once thought jelly on bread was the peak of happiness, and closer to someone who can be broken in far more complex ways. And that's exactly what makes the contract with Pochita so quietly tragic. Because what Denji doesn't realize is that he is the experiment. Pochita didn't save him just to prolong his life. He saved him to give him a shot at something bigger, something dangerous, to be human in a world where humanity is currency. A gamble with no guarantee. Even the heart beating in his chest, the chainsaw itself, is a contradiction. It gives him monstrous power, but it's powered by a childlike promise.
これは契約だ。私の心臓をやる。代わりに、デンジの夢を私に見せてくれ。
And that line? It gets me every time. Because dreams are messy. They stretch, twist, evolve. What begins as a wish for soft beds and warm food becomes a yearning for real love, real belonging. And as Denji starts to chase those things, his heart, Pochita, has to ask, is this still the boy I made a deal with? Denji gains power through love, not by abandoning it, but that very love makes him more vulnerable, more human. And in a world ruled by devils, being human isn't just risky, it's lethal. So, what then is the hidden cost? It's not just that Denji might lose himself. It's that by finding a self, by building a soul, he risks everything that soul might one day suffer. And that's a cost no devil ever mentions. Because devils deal in absolutes, life for death, power for pain. But humanity? Humanity is complicated. It changes. It redefines itself. Personally, I don't think Denji fully understands the weight of what he's stepping into. And honestly, I'm not sure any of us would, if we were in his place. Denji doesn't sell his humanity like others. He spends it, bit by bit, learning what it even is. And perhaps that's the real brilliance of Fujimoto's storytelling. That Chainsaw Man doesn't treat power as an escape, but as a trial. A place where dreams aren't just tested, but broken, reforged, and made real. Not through violence alone, but through emotional contradiction. Denji is not the same boy who made a deal in a garbage-strewn shack. He's not even the same person he was the first time he slept in a real bed. He's something else now, something in transition. Not fully devil, not fully man. A boy with a chainsaw heart trying to prove he deserves the right to dream. and somewhere deep inside him, beneath the roaring teeth and devil blood, a quiet promise he once made to Pochita still echoes.
普通の暮らしをして、普通の死に方をしてほしい。俺の夢を叶えてくれよ。
But normal in this world is the most extraordinary thing to ask for, especially when being human is the most dangerous thing you can be.